I don't know that I ever found Lovecraft scary. I'm not sure that anybody does read him for being scary. There's that weirdness in which, the greatest Lovecraft stories tend to end in italics, with somebody actually, as I write this, I can hear it crawling up the stairs. Something is thumping towards me. Now the door is opening. Oh Lord, it comes towards me. I hear it chant. Ayah Shub Niggurath. Its pseudopod is reaching out for me. No, no, dash. And the story stops. And you go, he really wasn't sitting there writing all that down. Yet, there was something in the mythos.
Oh, I suppose the king of the deities of the Cthulhu, well, that would be Cthulhu, after whom it was named, although not by Lovecraft, more likely by Derleth or the people who wrote after Lovecraft, yeah. But great Cthulhu, yeah, tentacled old one, down at the bottom of the sea, trapped in his submerged city, Relaya, waiting for the stars to come right in an allegedly magical configuration so that he could rise to the surface again and dominate the earth as before humankind were here.
The secret priests would take great Cthulhu from his tomb to resume his rule of Earth. The time would be easy to know, for then mankind would have become like the great old ones, free and wild and beyond good and evil.
Then you got Azathoth, the demon sultan. In my own picture of the mythos, Azathoth was described by Lovecraft, rather, as the crawling chaos, a nuclear mass at the center of creation. I considered him the Big Bang. Shub-Niggurath, the goat of the woods with 1,000 young in Lovecraft. Well, I don't know. You see, Lovecraft's deities, taken over by people like Robert E. Howard and Clark Ashton Smith, seem to mate with each other a hell of a lot. So when I hear about Shub-Niggurath, the goat of the woods with 1,000 young, also spoken of as the ewe with 1,000 young, male and female, I think of the power of miscegenation. Because Lovecraft's gods do seem to have intermingled a hell of a lot, despite that there were various gaseous, solid, liquid, tentacled, slug-footed creatures. But they got along pretty well with each other in bed, it appears, according to the other writers in the mythos anyway.
Another race, a land race of beings shaped like octopi and probably corresponding to the fabulous pre-human spawn of Cthulhu, soon began filtering down from cosmic infinity and precipitated a monstrous war which for a time drove the old ones wholly back to the sea.
The problem with Jungian archetypes is they cease to exist when humans cease to exist. They are products, epiphenomena of the human life, experience, and culture. The elder gods existed before humans. Now, temporarily, they coexist with human life, human experience. But that will change, and they shall exist after us. There's been reports of Cthulhu in the Pacific. If the reports can be believed, even if half of what is said can be believed, he's immense, unimaginably large. Before my graduate students disappeared, as they euphemistically put it, we came across a group that had been described by missionaries as being Dagon worshippers. Dagon, of course, is found in the Old Testament. But that, again, is an imperfect vision of what Dagon is.
The vision of Lovecraft is one in which you have these ancient powers that are godlike and malign. They do not particularly like us, and they are much more powerful than we are, and they can squash us like bugs. And if we simply get into the kind of places where they exist, we will be destroyed. There is an ineffable rightness about Lovecraft. There is an ineffable rightness about the mythos that he came up with. And, you know, what was later sort of codified and described as the Cthulhu Mythos. And I always think it interesting that he wasn't the one codifying it. It was people who came after him who sort of said, well, no, you have to understand, this is what Nyarlathotep was, and this is what Cthulhu was, and first you get the old ones, and then you get the starfish-headed barrel things and stuff like that. And he didn't do that. He simply gave you a vision of an impossibly inhospitable universe in which we are screwed.
Now, the point about what Lovecraft was doing, the point about his mythology, is that it suggests a lot more than it shows. That's what it was meant to do. There was meant to be mysteries and enigmas and things that were never described. And then along came people like me and described the bits that he left out or attempted to.
The interesting thing is, in Lovecraft, people don't... They don't do the wrong thing in the way that you normally do in horror fiction. In horror fiction, the wrong thing. You do the wrong thing. You go into the shop and you buy that cat-headed object you probably shouldn't, or whatever, and everything goes bad. In Lovecraft, you simply, get a room in the wrong place, move to the wrong town, read the wrong story. You're just, you're screwed.
It was a book of spells, conjurations, damnable writings, forbidden words that were written by the Mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred. It was called the Al-Azif, which is the noise made by insects in the desert. A spooky enough noise in itself, yeah?
In his last years, Al-Hazred dwelt in Damascus, where the Necronomicon, Al-Azif, was written. And of his final death and disappearance, many terrible and conflicting things are told. He is said by Ibn Khaldun to have been seized by an invisible monster in broad daylight and devoured horribly before a large number of fright-frozen witnesses. Of his madness, many things are told. He claimed to have seen fabulous Iram, or city of pillars, and to have found beneath the ruins of a certain nameless desert town the shocking annals and secrets of a race older than mankind. He was only an indifferent Muslim, worshipping unknown entities, whom he called Yog-Sothoth and Cthulhu.
The Necronomicon is a gate, if you will, but not a gate in the traditional way of something that you could walk through, enter a new area, enter a new space. It's a gate that actually opens you up.
I believe the term Necronomicon may have come to him in a dream. The development of the Necronomicon was a very gradual process. He first came up with the author, Abdul al-Hazred, at the age of 5. Apparently some relative who was interested or had seen Lovecraft's interest in the Arabian Nights mentioned that as a name that Lovecraft could adopt for himself.
Well, I think every great writer, and many good writers, and a number of really bad writers, are in possession of the last remaining copy of the Necronomicon in existence. All of us should be. I loved the fact that in the 70s, people kept bringing out their own Necronomicons. I mean, there must have been, a dozen of them published by now? Which is great, except they're all stupid. And you start reading through them, and suddenly you're reading somebody's idea of a cool spell to summon a Shoggoth or whatever. And, I mean, frankly, the Necronomicon is a book that should drive you to madness. I want my copy. It should be bound in human skin, preferably signed by the mad Arab El Hazred himself on the title page. Dedication, to Auntie. Love, Abdul. Hope you enjoy it. And, as you get beyond about page 11, you should start feeling the crawling tentacles of madness invading your mind. And the urge to walk out into strange geometries and worship elder gods should be pulsing at your fingers, and, at some point in there you should start accidentally finding yourself sacrificing small animals, and then you should disappear mysteriously. That's what you do when you get your copy of the Necronomicon.